Welcome to Lecture 14, Individualized Funding. If you check your Algonquin College email account, you will see I've sent you a Method of Funding Preference survey. You need to complete the survey and email your score to the course instructor using the subject Method of Funding Preference. Emails that do not use this subject title will not be credited with a participation mark. In the developmental service worker field, there is a controversy on how services and supports should be funded. Some feel we should fund individuals directly. Families can take the allotted money and purchase their own services and supports. Others feel we need to continue to fund services directly and have services provided by trained professionals. Consider the following video clip.
Person-directed living is a right we take for granted. None of us could imagine having only one or two choices of places to work, or one or two choices of places to live. And none of us would cope well without the right to make the most basic decisions on our behalf. We direct our lives with the choices we make, whether it's the dozens of major decisions we make throughout our lifetime, or the thousands of seemingly minor choices we're offered on a daily basis. But in order to have choices, it's critical to be able to dream beyond programs and services. While you'll hear the term individualized funding used by families, in reality, from the government's perspective, there is no individualized funding. The funds flow through an agency first. People and families are then able to direct how things will work from there. This is due to the flexibility built into the local system and the willingness by local service providers to support people in this way.
How are services and supports currently funded? Money is given directly to the service provider. The amount of money a service receives is based on the complexity of the individual's disabilities and the number of individuals supported. The unfortunate aspect of this current system is that the individual's choice of services is limited to the services that are offered. Consider the following video clip.
In considering their options and developing a plan for their adult children, the only support and guidance parents can often find comes from social service agencies that provide direct services. No matter how hard they try to be neutral and open-minded, agencies can only offer what they sell. It's a little like consulting a car dealer about the type of car you should buy. It's nearly impossible to get independent advice. That's why families and organizations supporting person-directed living advocate for independent planning through a third-party organization that doesn't provide direct services. Families lucky enough to live in Windsor have access to the first unencumbered planning organization in Ontario, the Windsor Essex Brokerage for Personal Supports.
We offer no services. We don't provide work for people. We don't provide staffing for people. We don't provide homes. We don't do that. We have agencies and service providers in this area who are very skilled at that. And so if people were looking for those kinds of supports and services, that's where they'd go to get those. What we do is really an independent kind of planning. So people, with the people that they trust, can figure out what they want to do with their life.
So with the help of brokerage, Melissa, Carol, and Manfred began creating a new life for Melissa. They had three areas they wanted to focus on. First, they wanted Melissa to be involved in a work environment that interested her, and they wanted her to contribute in a way that would have value. Second, they wanted her to participate in activities and have interests outside of her home. And lastly, they wanted to plan for the future by setting Melissa up in a situation where she could live safely and happily long after they pass on. To get started, they first considered Melissa's work week. Melissa has always been passionate about animals, so Carol approached Colasante's Tropical Gardens and Petting Zoo about a position.
Melissa does volunteer work at Colasante's Tropical Gardens, which is it's in Leamington, which is about 40 kilometers from here, and it's quite a tourist attraction. He has greenhouses and he has lots of animals. Mr. Colasanti loves getting these baby tigers and panthers and lots of birds, and she works with the animals there. So she's got a terrific job.
They have a bottle there, right? What is it?
Melissa had several additional hours in her week that she could contribute to others, so Carol approached a local nursing home. As a volunteer, Melissa and her support worker offer manicures every Thursday morning. It gives her a chance to meet new people while providing them with a service they need and appreciate. Next, they considered the types of activities Melissa was interested in. She's a very social and outgoing person, looks forward to special events. So it's important that she has a busy, structured schedule. Every week, Melissa attends fitness classes and water aerobics. She attends Weight Watchers and has lost over 80 pounds since leaving the institution. She loves to bowl, shop, and go out for coffee or lunch. She even has time to attend People First chapter meetings on a regular basis. Finally, the last piece of the puzzle was to consider where Melissa would live.
Our son and daughter-in-law, they are the ones that have the 2 grandchildren, approached us last year. He said that we know that we will have to be Melissa's caregivers eventually. So rather than buy her a house, because they have always been house hunting, that's their weekend thing. They house hunt every weekend. So they told us that, Melissa will be living with them, but of course they needed a bigger house. So we told them well, if you find something that's appropriate, then we will help them out. Well, they did. They found a house, and consequently, Melissa has her own bathroom, kitchen, and large bedroom, separate from them.
When you fund services rather than individuals, you find that many services needed by these individuals are not offered, such as income supplement, person-centered planning, and community services. With individualized funding, the dollars currently directed to services are redirected to individuals who use the funds to purchase needed services and supports. Money is allocated to the individual following a functional assessment. In Ontario, the Support Intensity Scale, which was reviewed in Lecture 4, is used to assess the individual's needs. Once the assessment has completed, money is allocated based on the individual's needs. Individuals with significant disabilities receive more money. Those with less complex needs receive less money. What are the benefits of individualized funding? Individualized funding encourages service providers to create innovative services and supports, especially for hard-to-serve individuals. Eligibility for funds is based on functional needs, defining the individual's strengths and needs, and the family's wishes and desires. Eligibility is not based on a medical diagnosis. Individuals and families move from being recipients of service to employers. Individuals and families can complain about services without fear of reprisal. If they don't like the service, they can take their money elsewhere. What are the weaknesses associated with individualized funding? Trained DSWs are currently in short supply. If direct support professionals have to become independent contractors, the profession will become less attractive to those looking for the job security offered by agencies. Many family members do not want to take on the burden of being an employer. If a staff member cancels, it's often difficult to find backups to fill the shift. The responsibility for care falls to the family. Individualized funding for direct support professionals will result in lower pay, less protection from bullying and abuse by families, fewer benefits, and poor working conditions. Many direct support professionals who provide family support feel that they have been subjected to abuse and find it difficult to receive adequate funding from parents. For families, the paperwork to ensure accountability may become too bureaucratic and too cumbersome. An important question to ask is, will individualized funding cost the taxpayer more money? Consider the following video clip.
We turned our garage into an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment. And what we have is staff there about 10 to 12 hours a day, shorter on weekends, some gaps during a few of the days in the afternoon. So we're using about 70 to 75 hours a week of staffing.
Amanda's apartment is completely self-contained with a separate entrance. She's close enough that her parents can help if need be, but a separate apartment provides her with the space she needs. They began the hiring process well before construction was completed, and were well aware they had to proceed cautiously.
Amanda's got the potential to really hurt people, and so I didn't want to even try hiring staff on my own. I really wanted a backup plan, and so I stayed with the agency, and we had that option. The agency had given us the option of letting the person be their employer or us going on our own. And so what they do is they screen and do an initial interview of people, and then we sit down with Amanda and myself and my husband and the staff person, and Amanda interviews and asks questions like, do you like going for beer? And do you smoke cigarettes? And things that are important to her. And then they often go over to her apartment and spend some time together. And I'm finding that by the time somebody's been with Amanda for about 5 minutes, I can often tell if they're comfortable or not.
But does choice and control come with a cost? Everyone can agree that a person's quality of life will be better with person-directed living. But can we afford it?
It is costing the taxpayers somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000. And I used to think that was such a horrible cost until I started to realize that when Amanda was in the hospital, it was probably triple that. When Amanda was being staffed 24 hours, she had a roommate, but it was Amanda that needed most of the care, and they had a double staff. And we're probably talking $150,000 to $180,000 a year then. And quality of life was nothing like what it is now. And even for Amanda to be in jail would probably cost as much, which would be the alternative, because she has the potential and has been very violent. And people have tried to charge her, and the police have usually talked them out of it. And that hasn't happened in a year.
I guess a better question would be, as a society, how can we withhold person-directed living? As a taxpayer, I'm thrilled with the fact that Amanda is receiving funding that results in a savings of over 50 to 75%. With that saving comes a lifestyle that Amanda chooses and controls, and it's helped her to control her behavior.
If individualized funding is so beneficial to the taxpayer and the individuals, why is its use limited to a few communities in Ontario? The reason is clear. It's estimated that the province of Ontario saves $6 billion a year from family members who currently provide supports for free. Consider the following video clip.
As he stepped into the house after parking.
While the Friesens receive support money for Lisa, it's anything but a free ride. Choosing to help Lisa direct her life is an ongoing commitment and comes with personal costs.
We still feel that we contribute a whole heck of a lot, even though we have put together pieces from different pots of money to try to have a seamless approach to a team of people that give her a life. But there's still hours spent in phone calls and arranging backup for the staff. Sometimes two people are needed because of her health issues, and so then either we're working together or one of us is with a staff person, and even just the whole, day-to-day food, laundry, all that stuff that, in a group home somebody's doing all through the night. There's a lot of hours involved. And we have chosen to not really have much of a social life.
Person-directed living is a personal decision, and it's not easy. But for Brian and Michelle, the benefits far outweigh the sacrifices. Without person-directed living, Lisa would be placed in a group home or nursing home. With her complex health needs, she'd be a lifelong chronic patient. It's unlikely she'd receive the personal attention that she'd need to remain healthy for long.
What is service brokerage and how is it associated with individualized funding? An independent service broker assists families and levels the playing field. Service brokerage is a process by which an independent agent helps an individual and their family choose services, negotiates funding, and implements the plan. Service brokerage consists of 3 components. The first component is the individualized funding based on strengths, needs, and desires. The second component is a network of family and friends. For individualized funding to work, you need an independent observer. Staff cannot adequately advocate for the people they support against an agency that pays their salary. Consider the following video clip.
For brokerage to work, it must avoid the conflict of interest of existing systems. The decision to use a particular service should never be made by the government agency which supplies either the funds or the service. The supporting service must be separate from the funding body and the broker separate from both.
The broker acts independently from the government. And this is something that I had trouble with all along with all the social workers, even when it came to Natalie's aid for the summer. They're so wrapped up in the red tape. They're concerned with the child to a point, but they're also concerned with the funding and the dollars and how much it's going to cost them and where they're going to have to cut. The broker can act independently of that, and that's what I wanted. We always focus on what's best for Natalie, not what's best for the home or the service provider, not what's best, what's more convenient. We really try as much as possible to steer away from that. And that's what brokerage has made available to her.
With control over decisions on where they spend their money, the person with the disability and the family regain their right of choice. What happens when you return the power of choice to the individual? You restore the control over quality of life which is basic to our society. The benefits are not one-sided. The efficiency of brokerage means a better control on spending. Government is better able to monitor costs and get more for its funding dollar. The broker assists in negotiating on behalf of the client, and the government negotiates on behalf of the taxpayer, maintaining a reasonable ceiling on expense and spending. Both government and individuals gain while giving an increased commitment to the family.
You young folks fare pretty well here, believe me.
Brokerage doesn't alter the amount of funding available. It simply allows individuals and their families to decide how the funds are spent.
The third component is an independent service broker. What are the benefits of using service brokerage? Securing money and services is a difficult process. Service brokers demystify government legislation and services. They negotiate with service providers on behalf of the family, and they initiate new services. Consider the following video clip.
Our society is a society based on each time we buy an item, we reject a dozen others. If we don't like the goods and services we receive, we take our money and go elsewhere. But what if we require assistance to get the services we need? For people with a handicap, money for supports and services is given by the government directly to an agency or institution. What services there are and their quality are determined not by the consumer, but by the provider of the service. People with a handicap are denied the right of choice. To acquire the control and autonomy the rest of us take for granted, people with a handicap and their families need the right to make important decisions for themselves. For that to happen, the dollars already being spent to support them must be given not to an agency, but directly to the individual. Having control over where support funds are spent is essential for ensuring quality in their lives. Being able to choose requires not only the means, but also the knowledge to do it well. The person with the handicap or the family may lack the competence or expertise to make knowledgeable decisions. If we provide people with a handicap the right to choose, then we must also provide assistance in making sound decisions.
We're ready, sort of willing and able to carry out the move at any stage.
In our society, someone who negotiates contracts on behalf of another party is called a broker. Brokerage is a model easily adapted to serve the handicapped.
Well, how do you want to play it from here?
The person with the handicap or the family employs the broker to act as an advisor. By getting to know the individual's strengths and needs, the broker can help develop a comprehensive plan for finding services in the community.
475, please carry his book with him home visit.
The broker is the legs, the arms, the agent of the disabled individual. The broker explores options currently available for shelter, education, work, and medical services. But brokers are not decision makers. After establishing the individual's needs and searching out suitable supports in the community, brokers bring in the client's or the family's point of view. The broker gives information about the support options which are available, and when the client has decided, helps to develop a contract directly between the client and the provider of the service.
You should check the exam schedule for the time and place of quiz number 2. There are no regularly scheduled classes during exam week. Quiz 2 consists of 64 multiple choice questions. For more information, review the study guide in Chapter 15, pages 11 and 12.